your neighbors must love you.
Yeah, not so much. What up, Wackadoo Racing Channel? Welcome back. So we're on episode 22, part 5 of the Blitz Turbo Motor Swap Build project. And today we're going to be tackling the exhaust system, and hopefully in this episode we might even start playing with some of that intercooler piping. So for now, the main thing we got to do is try and get exhaust from the back of the turbo down below the car. We've got a couple of different options, but we are running into some snags depending on what we're trying to do as far as sound, performance, and drivability of the car in general. But that's going to come down to what Cody ultimately decides he wants to do. So 1 muffler, 2 mufflers, lakeside pipe, side skirts, straight pipe, hater pipe, we got options. Let's get you guys a look at what we've already made, which is going to be considered the mid pipe. Cody went ahead and welded us up this lovely mid pipe right here. I helped him get everything trimmed into place, but you can see we've got our V-band, we've got a nice tight radius 180 here, and a long radius 180 here. It looks like a giant capital S for Super Mint. So it actually sits really nicely on car. The main thing that we run into is way down here, where the bell housing is, where the motor mount is, where we have it. It ends up getting really narrow for the 2.5-inch pipe. So on our elongated section that goes under the car, we actually ran it over with the Jeep to oval it out. Now here on the end it's crushed too far, but we're going to end up cutting it back here. And it's just oval just enough that it goes between that narrowed section of the bell housing.
It's mint.
So let's go ahead and get it mocked up, and we'll show you where it's sitting.
So we got this thing out of the car, and again, just to emphasize, now that you see it as a whole, coming off the back of the turbo, coming back towards the cab, doing almost a 180 back towards the front of the car, and then again coming back down between the turbo manifold and the driver's side footwell, and then it comes into a straight pipe that shoots down between bell housing, motor mount, and driver footwell down towards the bottom of the pan. We ended up coming up a little bit short here, and we needed to add an extension to this to get right to the bottom of the pan. Bottom of the pan sits right about here. So this is pretty tight little bend coming into actually being parallel with the bottom of the car. Now, what we're looking at, and we got a lot of issues. Originally, we want this whole thing to come apart essentially right here at the angle. Because what we want to do is we want to be able to unbolt it from the turbo and still pull this whole mid-pipe section out if we needed to for maintenance and servicing. But we're running into some snags. We wanted to go with V-bands originally, because we got V-band up there, V-band down here would be a good clean aesthetic, and they're just easy. You can hide the clamps, they just all in all it looks good. But we got a problem. This is our standard 2.5-inch diameter exhaust, which in itself has a really hard time even slipping through that tight little space we're shoving this thing through. Now try to imagine a V-band. Clearly we're going to have clearance issues. That thing's never going to fit in between that little space. The other option was we wanted to have our flex tube that we wanted to put into this system as well, just because we are boosted and we are welding a lot of this together. We wanted to have a little bit of play. Problem being, again, too big. It'll never fit through that hole. So what we're going to end up probably having to do is take a section, a small section like this. We'll use an expander and we'll expand this out a little bit larger, and then we'll be able to actually slip that over the top of our radius here, and it'll act as a coupling between our mid pipe and the radius, and we can actually slip fit this into place. What we can do then is use some copper silicone and just throw that in there, slip fit them together. The heat's going to make the metal expand and hold everything nice and tight, and the bottom of this exhaust system going towards the rear of the car is all going to be bolted up tight to the bottom. So all in all, you'll have it tight up at the motor, you have it tight at the bottom, and you'll have expanded metal here holding this whole thing in place. Alright guys, you heard him. He said it first. We got space issues, conundrums, all kinds of tight spaces that we got to try to fit into with this thing. You guys saw 2 episodes ago when we did the exhaust, how tight that squeeze was from the actual block up and around the driver footwell. It was tight, but we found a spot. So let's take a look at it. Oh hey, turbo blinky, by the way. And then, fun fact, it's going to be black headers wrapped from here back. But you see, go from the V-band, snake around, and there's very minimal clearance here, but we'll work on that. Snakes around, gets out towards the front, and then actually snakes back down underneath the turbo manifold, but then over the top of the motor mount, and it goes between the bell housing and the pan on the bottom side. But like he said, we're going to go back right to where that spot is a little too ovaled out. We'll cut that off. And we've got a lot of decisions to make here. Do we want to go muffled? Do we want to go straight pipe? Am I going to get side skirts? Do lakesides? Got some choices to make, but we can for now at least start routing it under the car, because no matter which decision we go with, they're all going to be kind of the same, a little bit different. So we'll figure it out. We'll drink about it for a minute and see where we go. I like it. Let's just do that. That's way easier.
Sold.
That'll be way faster.
Really jonesing for a muffler. Our muffler is a K-series. Straight up the windshield.
Straight up the
Mint.
windshield. Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
Beyond Thunderdome. Diesel, bro. Oh, look, it's a 350Z now. I feel like we might walk into that. The Flying V. Bozuku! Brought to you by John Deere.
2 hours later.
Alright guys, we got it all mounted back up. I'll go down underneath and show you guys. But for now, looking at it, we are mounted back up. It is nice and solid. And we did add that little extension going down past. So let's go under here and take a look at it. So you can barely see it, but right here is the extension that we added. And then what we ended up doing was we took a couple of pieces, Frenched them together, so we're going to create a Y. We made a choice, guys. No mufflers, and everything's going to be fine. Everything's fine, right?
It'll be fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. So we're just going to go true duals. We're running into a packaging issue down here where the mufflers, could we make them work? Yeah, absolutely we can make mufflers work. But as it sits, I don't want to make it work. And at the end of the day, realistically, these turbos, if you don't know about them, they actually act really well as a muffler. It's going to sound almost identical to D's car, his Triumph GT6, and he can show you this right here. Give you guys a little show of what we're looking like for true dual lakesides with the tip that I've kind of chosen. So obviously it's going to be full length. We're going to come from right behind the driver front tire. We're going to run full length all the way back with a slant cut tip that's going to exit out right in front of the tire. So we're going to go with the 1-inch black headers wrap on the turbo manifold, and then from basically back of turbo down, I'm going to pick up a roll of 2-inch. It'll be a little bit easier and a little bit better of an aesthetic having that wider headers wrap going all the way down and around. And then again, once it comes off of the Y and splits, we'll headers wrap down and around all the way back to the tip.
So we had to pick between, is it going to look really cool, or is it going to sound a little bit more tone suppressed so that on a long drive it's a little bit more manageable? And ultimately, looking friggin' dope on a Sunday driver / track car is more important than whether or not you can drive it a couple hours at a time. Put in earplugs and enjoy having a really car.
I agree. And at the end of the day, how long are we really going to be driving these things on the freeway next to K-Rail where it's going to be droning out our ears? They're not going to be very long drives. We're driving right down the way to Cars and Coffee here locally, or to the track, which is only 20 minutes away.
And if the track is further away than it can justify us driving said car, eventually we're going to be able to just throw them on the back of the ramp truck and take them down there using the tow rig. So we won't have to drive them. So There's no reason to have to actually be droning in the car when we're building a rig designed to do exactly that for us.
Yep, exactly. So we made a decision. We're going with it. Full steam ahead. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Straight pipe turbo!
Yep.
Well, guys, we managed to make a little mistake and didn't realize that the metal shop was going to close at 2 o'clock because of their COVID hours, so we weren't able to get the rest of this tubing that we needed to finish the exhaust. Is what it is. However, we were able to get started on the intercooler piping. Now, we do have more of that piping coming in because we cut some of it up to make what we needed to happen, but we did get the hot side charge pipe finished today. So take a look at what that looks like. So that comes nicely directly off of the turbo, comes down, runs parallel to the, let's say, frame. It's the unibody. From now on and forevermore, we will call it the frame. We know it's a unibody. There's no frame. We're calling it a frame from now on. I'm tired of correcting that on camera. It's not a frame. We know. I'm calling it a frame anyways. So it runs right along the frame, comes down, wraps around way down there, goes into the intercooler.
Yep, pretty easy. You can actually see right here.
Up and around.
Nice and pretty.
That fits really nice and tight, looks really good, very cleanly, out of the way. We're going to be doing something very similar on this side, but we need another 90 to come in so we can go ahead and make that happen. So for now, we're doing the logical thing, which is a fun project, just to look cool. We're modifying the valve cover.
Yeah, because why not? So here's the deal, guys. The Miata
I guess you're right.
valve cover is just boring. There's no two ways about it. I mean, it looks good in some scenarios, some conditions, but to me it's boring, and that is not boring by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to take a little bit of artistic freedom away from D, what he did with his GT6. He actually took a small block Chevy Mickey Thompson valve cover, cut the sides off of it, and made a valley cover for his plugs and coils. And then what he also did was trimmed off the front here, trying to get the shadow out of the way so you can see his timing gears. It looks really cool, cleans up the motor a lot, and he filled in his actual Mazda logos on the top of that. So it looks really cool, makes the engine bay look a lot better, and at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. We're trying to do something that's a little less stressful, a little more fun, because we've been running late nights on this thing after work. We need something fun. So here's what we're thinking. It's kind of what she's going to look like. So it'll look different. Nobody will know what the hell they're looking at until we tell them. And then we're also going to roach off the front of this and open up those timing gears, but not as far back as D did on his Triumph. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool. Something to just have fun. We need a little bit of fun for tonight. So I had already done some trimming to the Opel valve cover before, trimmed down the actual height all the way around, and then we finessed it in and started going really tight and trimming everything down so it's going to fit nice and snug over the top of the Miata valve cover. Then D went ahead and used a 3-inch hole saw to actually get this carved out. Took a 2-inch piece of the aluminum we're actually using for the intercooler piping, cut one seam down the middle, expanded it out, got it shaped and formed in, and he got it all welded in. It's nice and tight, looks good. Now we're going through on the Miata valve cover where we have some overlaps between the Miata letters and our valve cover for the Opel. Now we're just filling it in with some 5-minute epoxy, get it all sanded down. So what you're looking at is the Opel valve cover that has been trimmed and cut to fit on top of the Miata valve cover and act as, like we said, a nice little coil plug wire valley cover. We ended up, like we said, did the hole saw there, got that all welded in nice and pretty, and we cut off the front where the timing gears go, so you'll be able to see the yellow through the timing gears. Slotted some holes on top. So all in all, as far as like first custom, real shiny, beautiful piece that we've done, I think we knocked it out of the park. And he did most of the hard work, but I mean, I helped a little bit. But yeah, I think that's going to accent the car really well. And I think what we're going to end up doing is black intake. I've got a black turbo blanket here. We're going to keep all of the piping for the coolant system raw, brushed aluminum. And then the black engine compartment around it, I think it's gonna pop. What do you think?
I think the canary yellow valve cover is probably my favorite part of the car right now. Even with the turbo that's about to come bulging out of the hood, the canary yellow, half mod, half old school valve cover is making me really happy. So I'm pretty freaking stoked.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. We're pretty stoked, honestly. The way it came out, the color that came out with the way it matches the car and the patina and everything else that goes along with it, absolutely phenomenal. Now obviously it's not done. We still have to drill a couple holes and tap some bolts in so that we can hold that top piece down for the Opel valve cover, but that's what it's going to look like. So we're still waiting on a couple parts to come in for the rest of our charge piping coming up from the intercooler to the intake itself. Those will be in tomorrow. We're also going to finish getting the materials for the exhaust out the back so we can do the dual lakesides that we're going with for this thing. Ooh, one other little touch that happened tonight. Oh yeah, blued out the exhaust tip. So all in all, pretty productive night, pretty fun night. I think we made a lot of progress. I think we needed a little bit of a fun night, get away from some of the stress.
We got to do something kind of fun and cool looking instead of the stuff that needs to happen just to get it running. This was a nice burner Saturday to do something that was kind of fun. If nothing else, this looks awesome, and I'm feeling really good about that, and that's enough for me. But we're not going to stop there because that's not what we do. For tonight, we're done.
All right, guys, we're back at it again tonight. So Saturday night, where we left off, was this beautiful setup that we made. Where we're at now, we are still waiting for the silicone 90 reducer to go down off the intake and the throttle body, but we do have the tubing to come from the intercooler on the cold side up and into the throttle body itself. So we're going to start mocking that out and get that all cut to size, hopefully welded tonight so we can get it all mocked in place and see how it actually sits. Well, guys, this is what we came up with. So we've got our charge tube here. We left it a little bit long because we're still waiting for this reducer 90 to come in. We don't know exactly where that's going to sit, but essentially it just goes down, cuts down underneath where the headlight is, and hits the 120 that actually turns and goes into the intercooler. So that's how that sits. So as where we're at right now, the intercooler piping is about 90% done. We still got a blow off valve that I got to buy, get it in here so we can plumb that in and figure out how annoying we want to be. And like I said, we're just waiting on that reducer 90. But other than that, intercooler's decent, radiator check, valve cover check, exhaust next. So.
In a cool turn of events, we went to get our regular 2.5-inch piping, and our buddy Tom was able to score this really nice stainless for actually much cheaper than we were supposed to get the full stick of standard 2.5 mild steel, because this was considered a remnant, meaning the company had already cut some off. So it was actually $21 cheaper for most of a stick of stainless instead of the actual cost of 2.5-inch and a full stick of mild steel. So got kind of lucky there. That'll be real nice with the headers wrap on there and add to the longevity and keep this thing humming nice.
Yep. So that's her, guys, right there. Something kind of like that, full length. Obviously, we're going to do the black headers wrap all the way down. We'll stop right before the tip. That way, you know, got black, and then we got the stainless tip. Anyways, that we've already blued out a little bit and colorized. So all in all, that's kind of how she's going to look. Oh, it's going to look nice.
So last night in the wee hours, we were able to go ahead and get the exhaust mocked up. We got both lakeside pipes mocked, got our tips on, went ahead and made our junctions over to our Y right here, and all this is already welded. So he's knocking down some of the burrs from where we just welded it. We went ahead and tacked a bar from one pipe to the other so it wouldn't move while we welded all this. Then we'll paint it up and wrap it, and then it goes back on the car. Using some VHT header paint. Gonna throw a base coat on everything real quick just to protect it and help with rust inhibition once it's wrapped with the headers wrapped.
Yeah, baba.
Here we're just getting a nice wrap on the side pipes, and having done multiple vehicles, I'm always astounded at how long this actually takes. So we're using the FLIR thermal camera, and you can see right now that between the two, the flow is actually pretty much the same, considering we did no testing beforehand. See, obviously it takes a little bit more flow, but you're talking about a longer pipe. And then on our shorter pipe, we have a more aggressive bend. And between the two, now Cody's standing here with a heat gun. So right here at the center, we're at about 300 degrees. And then at our tips, we're actually outflowing. Let's aim here right at the end. Got about 70. And up here on the opposing tip, right about 74. Now, considering that that is the higher of the two pipes and heat travels upward, that's pretty impressive. Considering we did no testing or math, it actually flows pretty similarly, so that's kind of cool. Let's show you what we got done. So there's the hybrid Opel Gt original valve cover, mated to the cutout Miata valve cover. We got turbo still in place with our mid pipe all welded up. All of our charge piping and silicone is in place. We now have all the intercooler piping made. So we're still going to go ahead and add a blow-off valve to one of these on this side. That's all in place. Radiator lines are all made. And now, fully wrapped, is this sweet set of blacked out stainless lakeside pipes. Those look freaking awesome.
Given the garage lighting and it's nighttime, it's a little dark, but as soon as light hits it, it's gonna pop, especially with the tips that we put on, the Gibson slash cut tips. We ended up bluing those out a little bit, adding some color to them, and it actually matches the car and the wheels really well. So all in all, a lot of progress made in the last week or so on everything that we needed to go on. Making a lot of progress. We're right there. We're getting there, baby.
So we're not gonna get anything done tomorrow because with any luck, I'll be done editing somewhere between midnight and 2 in the morning. So you guys have a video, and then Saturday we'd have to clean the garage again before we try and do anything because it's a mess. But made killer headway this week, and we'll be back at it on Saturday. But for this one, Wackadoo out.